Why, hello there, and welcome to this video. Today, we have to talk about something, and that something is Trump's big, beautiful bill, or what he calls a big, beautiful bill. And it is actually rather big. It does increase the deficit by trillions of dollars, which the GOP claims to care about when they're not in power, but when they're in power, they're the biggest hypocrites alive. They just want to increase the deficit, spend a bunch of money on war and killing people, and they also want to make permanent tax cuts that will allow the richest in our country to run away with even more money while the poorest in our country suffer cuts to programs that help them get through life. Now, I have to admit, I already recorded this video. I just recorded this video and OBS messed up. I hit stop recording. It said it was stopping the recording, but then it never stopped the recording. And so I had to exit out of OBS and it corrupted the whole file. So this is take two. Hopefully I'm maybe a little more concise with my points and what I want to say here. I have an article from Erin Reed right here. We're going to be going through this. And I just want to say, give her a follow, subscribe to her Substack. She will help you stay informed and stay up to date with what's going on. I get comments sometimes where people say they use me as like a source of information, which, I would love to be that and do that. And I'm working towards that. I want to go full time here on YouTube. That is definitely something I would like to do. But for now, I literally cannot provide you with all the information that you need. Like, you need to be staying up to date about things that are going on. And I'm sorry, I just cannot do that for you. Like, I try to be someone who talks about news and politics and all this stuff, but I'm not here going over every little single thing that happens in every single state or even everything that's going on federally. So, I want to be a source of information and I want to be here to help you, but please subscribe to people like Erin who will keep you up to date and informed. So anyway, here's the article. House spending bill now bans Medicaid for transition care for adults. Late Wednesday night, as the House debated Trump's sweeping tax and spending bill, which will shape the federal government's priorities for the coming year, Republican leaders made a last-minute concession to the party's hard-right flank, expanding a provision banning Medicaid funds for transgender youth to now include all transgender people regardless of age. The move marks a significant and unprecedented escalation, effectively the first major federal effort to restrict access to transition-related care for adults. It also confirms what many transgender advocates have long warned, and what some GOP operatives have candidly admitted. The end game is not protecting the children, it's banning care for everyone. I have talked about this before. Erin Reed has talked about this before. There is a recording that you can find from Republican lawmakers on a Twitter Spaces openly admitting that they know that this is a war of attrition and that they just want to keep attacking us every year until eventually it works. They're going to take bites out of our rights until we have none left. And that's what they're trying to do. That's what they want to do. It's openly admitted. This is just an effort to attack people like me and our rights. So to continue on here, the manager's amendment came late Wednesday night and changed a previous ban on gender transition procedures for minors. Notably, gender transition procedures is defined to include hormone therapy. See the following provision from the bill. So you can read this here. It says, specified gender transition procedures defined. Section 1905 of the Social Security Act is amended by adding at the end the following new subsection, specified gender transition procedures. For purposes of Section 1903, except as provided in paragraph 2, the term specified gender transition procedure means with respect to an individual, any of the following when performed for the purpose of intentionally changing the body of such an individual, including by disrupting the body's development, inhibiting its natural functions, or modifying its appearance to no longer correspond to the individual's sex. Testosterone, estrogen, or other androgens to an individual at doses that are supraphysiologic then would normally be produced endogenously in a healthy individual of the same age and sex. So obviously, the framing of that and the wording of that is ridiculous. Every medical major association agrees that gender-affirming care is life-saving care and important. And in here, they're trying to phrase it as if it's disrupting the body and inhibiting it and harming it. And it's no, it's literally not. But okay, you're just gonna frame it in this horrible, uninformed, bigoted way. That's cool. The manager's amendment, reportedly introduced to win back support from hardline conservatives after concessions were made to the party's more moderate wing, dramatically expanding the scope of the Medicaid ban on transgender care. What was initially a restriction targeting transgender affirming care for minors now extends to people of all ages. See the amendment language here. Strike for minors and strike under 18 years of age. The policy change could have devastating consequences for transgender people across the United States and is likely to clash with several state laws that mandate insurance coverage for gender-affirming care. According to the UCLA Williams Institute, more than 152,000 transgender Americans currently rely on Medicaid for their care. Stripping that coverage would make surgeries cost prohibitive for many, with procedures often running into the tens of thousands of dollars. Even routine hormone therapy and necessary blood work could become financially out of reach. For countless trans adults, this would mean either turning to unsafe alternative care or being forcibly taken off treatment, a process known as medical detransition. The effects can be severe, particularly for those who have already undergone surgery and require ongoing hormone supplementation, putting both mental and physical health at serious risk. While shocking in its scope, the ban on Medicaid funding for transgender adults has been telegraphed for some time. Aaron in the Morning was the first to report a leaked audio recording of Republican lawmakers from multiple states openly discussing their intent to ban transgender healthcare for everyone, explicitly including adults. The wave of legislation targeting transgender youth, athletes, and school policies was never the end game. It was the opening act. And then it says, according to Bloomberg, the House could vote on the full bill, but they already did, and they passed it. But yeah, over here in this last paragraph, she was discussing that audio recording that we were talking about from Twitter Spaces, where those Republican lawmakers were openly discussing taking away our rights and banning gender-affirming care for literally everybody in the United States, which is ridiculous. A lot of Republicans or conservatives will say something like, well, I don't care what you do as long as you're an adult. It's your body. You do whatever you want. But then these Republican lawmakers are over here like, okay, but we're actually just going to make it illegal to do whatever you want. So, okay. That's the article. That's the big story. And here's the thing. Okay. I want to make it very clear. This is harmful. This is damaging. This will hurt people in our community. This is not fair. This is disgusting, bigoted, and honestly not backed by science. Like the things that they're doing here, the framing is incorrect. Every major medical association agrees that gender affirming care is life-saving healthcare. There's immense amounts of evidence that that is true. And there's absolutely no evidence that it is like maiming you or disrupting the body's natural development or inhibiting function, like natural functions. Like, yes, it can make you like infertile if you're on HRT long enough, but like you can prepare for that, you know, like if you want, you can freeze stuff or whatever. But if you don't want to freeze stuff, like it's your freaking body, it's your freaking choice. And like maybe you don't want kids, you know, like I don't want kids. I could rant about this for a while. This is a massive attack against our community. This is probably the most harmful thing that they are attempting to do so far. At a federal level, this is probably the worst thing that is being attempted right here. And I normally do this thing where I bring you a little bit of hopium, or I bring you some silver lining or something that can help you feel better about this. And I have a little bit, but I gotta admit to you, I do not have much. Like I don't have a lot to give you in terms of hopium today. So the one thing I will say, there are other ways to get access to hormone therapy. If your Medicaid is no longer covering it, getting gender affirming care while under supervision of a doctor becomes insanely expensive. It just does. It just becomes insanely expensive. Medical anything in America is like insanely expensive. And to be totally honest with you, a lot of people are going to be priced out of that simply by having Medicaid no longer cover that gender affirming care. That there are other ways to get access to HRT or to whatever, you know, like the hormones and stuff. Like there are bodybuilders, there are people who power lift or do all those kinds of like athletic sports things. And a lot of those guys are on TRT and they are not getting that stuff from a doctor. Like a lot of elder trans folk will remember times where they had to get access to this stuff from not from a doctor. And it's there. The option is there. It is something that people can do, and you can look into that if you would like to. And all I will say is that, you know, it's a real thing. It's a very real thing. Like if you're a power lifter and your testosterone levels are kind of normal, there's a lot of people like that who like then they say, but I want the TRT, you know, and so then they go and they get it from whatever source they get it from. So that is a thing. Like you can still technically get access to it, and it's not the safest. Like there are inherent risks to doing something like that. Like obviously under the supervision of a doctor is the way to go and is the safe way and the preferred way. But there were long periods of time where people in our community were getting HRT without the supervision of a doctor. And maybe, especially for people on Medicaid, we are returning to an era where that is what people will have to resort to doing. That being said, it will still cost money because even if you're not getting it from under the supervision of a doctor, you're still going to have to pay for it. So like for some people that is very problematic. Now I will say some forms of HRT are more cost effective than others. Like I know for me, for instance, I'm on injections, and one vial for me will last like 3, maybe 4 months, like almost 4 months. So, you know, I really only need 4 vials a year to make it through. And if you kind of do the price analysis on that, it becomes actually pretty reasonable for like injections. I know that like patches and pills are more expensive, but patches can also be decently priced, you know. I think injections are like the cheapest version of HRT, but that is just something to keep in mind. Also, you know, maybe you have to ask for help from friends or family, or maybe like apply for funding from something like Point of Pride. I know that they do provide support to people to get access to like surgeries or HRT or whatever. So if that is something that you are able to get access to, that could be very much something to consider. Also, if you're on Medicaid right now and you're receiving medicine, like HRT, life-saving healthcare, what I recommend doing is talk to your doctor about potentially stockpiling some HRT. Like increase your dose, but don't actually increase your dose. Obviously, they don't take more, but get prescribed more so you can put some back. And that way, if something were to happen, you don't have like a disruption to your treatment, to your medicine, like to your life-saving healthcare. Make sure that you have some put back so that if something were to happen, you have some time to figure out what you're going to do, where you're going to get it, how you're going to afford it. Now I got to be real, like this is something that I almost had happen in my own personal life. This was almost very real for me a couple years ago because there was some stuff happening in Ohio where they tried to ban gender affirming care for people of all ages. They essentially tried to create restrictions that were so impossible for clinics to follow that clinics would have just shut down. And like 80% of trans people in Ohio would have lost access to gender affirming care. So I had to go and look into these alternative methods to accessing gender affirming care or hormones. And I was like ready to go that route. Like, you know, I kind of still am ready to go that route should it become necessary, but I don't want it to be necessary. Obviously, I feel like that sucks. It's dumb. It's stupid. This is ridiculous, but this is the America that we're freaking living in, unfortunately. So this is really important, though. I want to mention there's like this more than 152,000 trans Americans on Medicaid. Not all of those people, like some of those people are people in my audience watching this video, but some of these people are not paying attention to news and politics. Some of these people are just trans Americans living their lives. You know, they're on Medicaid, but they're getting access to their care and they're fine and they're not political or like involved with politics on their day-to-day basis. And some of those people, if this bill passes the Senate and gets signed into law, some of these people will find out just all of a sudden they're getting their care, everything's fine, and then boom, it's no longer covered, and you're just finding out, you know, while you're going to pick up your script or something. And the danger of that is that some people in our community, that'll happen to them and they'll enter crisis. You know, they won't know what to do. They wouldn't have seen this coming because they weren't paying attention. And suddenly, you know, they don't have access to gender affirming care that's life-saving for them, something that they need to continue living and living happily as themselves and healthily as themselves. And so the real danger of this is just that some people will have this happen to them and then they'll go into crisis and they'll do something regrettable. They won't, you know, necessarily know what direction to take or what to do. They'll feel attacked. They'll feel like the country is against them or whatever, and they'll do something regrettable. And, you know, that's the thing is like mental instability is not necessarily amazing among the trans community. And the reason why is because of the way that we're we're treated because of stuff like this. Attacks like this make trans people feel like, oh my God, like the government is against me. The world is against me. Everyone hates me. No one wants me here. No one wants me in this society. And like that is what causes a lot of people in our community to suffer from like a mental health crisis or just mental health issues in general, like PTSD or anxiety or whatever. So like, honestly, that's what I'm concerned about. That's part of the reason why I want to make this video. I want to try to inform as many people as I can that this could happen, and you should be prepared for what you might need to do in case this does happen. That being said, I know that was kind of dark. I know that was not a lot of positive to go off there. So I wanted to go over one more article here with you. And here it is. We are going to be reading this article, another article from Aaron Reed. This one's more recent. The most legendary trans figures in history you never learned in school. We're going to talk about this because I think it's important. It's a great reminder that we are here. We have always been here. We have lived throughout history, and that's not, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Whether society wants us here or not, we continue to exist. I do have a book that I have read part of. I haven't finished it, but it's a great book. It's called Before We Were Trans, and it basically goes in and talks about similar stories to this, where people that were like gender queer or just like, obviously trans before trans was like defined in the way that it is today. And there are loads of people like this throughout history that were genderqueer or whatever. And I think that it's important to talk about these people because their stories matter, and they're representation of like the history of our community. So let's go into this. We have always been here. Transgender people have always been here, and yet those who are morally opposed to our existence often frame us as a recent phenomenon, some fleeting byproduct of a pulp culture or so-called social contagion. The truth is far deeper, richer, and more enduring. Transgender people have lived and thrived throughout history. The more you look, the more extraordinary lives you'll find. Any of the individuals you're about to read about could be the subject of a feature film. And yet, chances are you've never heard their names in a classroom. In an era where LGBTQ+ history is being censored, rewritten, or erased entirely, when some claim we have no history at all, learning about these trailblazers is radical and yet so important. These are just a few of my favorite transgender figures from history. There are dozens more. So with no further ado, let's begin. Also, I just want to say I'm going to butcher some of these names, so I apologize. I'm going to try my best. So first up, we have Emilio Robles Avila. So he was a transgender man born in 1889 in Zoquipala, Guerrero. He joined the Mexican Revolution in 1912 and transitioned while serving, ultimately rising through the ranks to become a Zapatista colonel. After the revolution, he continued to serve in the army in various capacities. He was officially recognized as a male veteran, awarded military honors, and granted correct identification documents and a pension. He lived to the age of 95, passing away in 1984. That's crazy. Like 9 years before I was born, he passed away. So like I almost lived in the same time as this man right here, which is wild to think about. But yeah, Robles quickly gained a reputation for his grit and bravado, reminiscent of the classic Western archetype: cigar in one hand, pistol in the other. He was fiercely protective of his identity and unapologetically himself. At one point, he famously threatened to shoot anyone who referred to him as a woman. In another incident, when a group of men attempted to assault him in an effort to reveal his assigned sex at birth, he fought back and killed 2 in self-defense. His status was never in doubt among those who served with him. Avila was formally recognized as a male veteran of the revolution, a title granted only to men, and lived openly in romantic relationships with women at a time and place where such relationships were often criminalized or met with violence. His life and honors spoke volumes about how his gender was respected by those around him, even if society at large wasn't ready to do the same. And yet, in a final act of posthumous disrespect, his grave bears his feminine birth name, a slight that would not be possible would he still be breathing. Next up, we have Lucy Hicks Anderson. Lucy Hicks Anderson was a Black transgender woman who knew from an early age that she was a girl, decades before the word transgender would be commonly understood. Born in the late 1800s, she told her parents exactly who she was. Uncertain of what to do, they brought her to a doctor who concluded that there was nothing wrong with her and advised that they let her live as herself. And so they did. From that point forward, Lucy Hicks Anderson lived unapologetically and fully as a woman. She eventually settled in Oxnard, California, where she opened a boarding house that doubled as a brothel and bootlegging operation. Her reputation in town soared. She was known as the city's best cook and a socialite who threw the most unforgettable parties. At one point, after she was arrested, a wealthy banker posted her bail because he had an event the next day and she was to be the chef. In 1944, Lucy married her husband. Sadly, a year later, her assigned sex at birth was discovered, and both she and her husband were sentenced to a men's prison, where they served 10 years. When they were released, they moved to Los Angeles together, where they lived out the rest of their lives. So I think that's a beautiful story right there about the husband staying with her through 10 years of prison and moving out to Los Angeles with her. Like, that's so romantic. Like, what a guy, you know, like he really stuck it through with her. And that's beautiful. Like that's unconditional love right there. I'm going to butcher this name. I'm sorry. I'm horrible with French. So it's Chevalier d'Eon. I don't know. Chevalier d'Eon was a transgender woman in the 1700s whose story was larger than life, an intoxicating mix of espionage, extortion, and identity that culminated in one of the few successful transitions of her era. That she pulled it off in a time when such a thing was considered unthinkable makes her tale all the more remarkable. She was a French spy, a double agent, and a master manipulator who seeded rumors about her identity and then used them as leverage to obtain gender-affirming documents by blackmailing a monarchy. Born into French nobility, Dion served King Louis as a court operative, gathering intelligence in various royal courts across Europe. After a stint in Russia, her most consequential mission took her to England, where she was dispatched under diplomatic cover to report on coastal defenses. But England proved too charming to leave. Dion flourished in London, hosting extravagant parties, and in a masterstroke of strategic gender disinformation, began whispering that she was in fact a woman disguised as a man. The rumor caught fire. At one point, the London Stock Exchange opened wagers on her assigned sex at birth. When the French crown ordered her back to Paris, Dion refused and published a memoir threatening to reveal classified secrets. With that leverage, she secured a remarkable deal. Under the reign of a new king, she would surrender her archives and in return receive a lifetime annuity and be legally recognized as a woman and receive. I think that was a little bit of a typo there. The gamble worked. Dion lived out the rest of her life as a woman. That life, however, came with hardship. Stripped of the freedoms afforded to men in that period, she often struggled with poverty. She found an unlikely solution: dueling. A master fencer, she competed against men and drew crowds, including for bouts immortalized in the painting seen above. When she died, doctors declared that she had been assigned male at birth, but that detail in the end was irrelevant. Dion already lived her life on her terms and won. And then we have Albert Cashier. Albert Cashier was assigned female at birth in the 1840s and adopted a male identity upon enlisting in the Union Army during the Civil War. While many individuals assigned female at birth took on male identities to fight, Albert's case stands apart. He never returned to living as a woman. He lived the rest of his life as a man, earning him recognition today as a likely transgender pioneer. Cashier's combat record was exceptional. He fought in dozens of battles and at one point was captured only to escape by seizing his guard's weapon and sprinting back to his regiment. He was known for his fearlessness, famously climbing trees to taunt Confederate soldiers. "Come out of there, you damned rebels, and show your face." After the war, Cashier quietly continued his life as a man. He voted, worked as a farmhand and a cemetery caretaker, and maintained his identity without question. That changed in 1911 when he was struck by a car and hospitalized, where his assigned sex at birth was discovered. He was forced into a dress, and the dehumanizing treatment marked the beginning of his physical and emotional decline. Eventually institutionalized, Cashier's pension came under review, but his fellow soldiers rose to his defense, testifying to his valor and demanding his service be honored. Though he died not long after, his comrades did not stop fighting for him. They ensured he was buried under the name Albert Cashier in full military uniform, with honors befitting the man they knew him to be. Now, I think that a lot of that is very powerful. You know, it's powerful to see, like, in a time where the whole world was against them living their truth, these people fought tirelessly and bravely and obviously at great risk to live their truth and live their lives as they wanted to live, as they wanted to be, as they truly were. And that's really just inspiring, honestly. It really goes to show that even if the entire world is not ready for us, we were still here. We were still here. We have always been here. And not only that, though, it's really beautiful to see like the people that fought alongside these people, you know, like maybe society at large wasn't ready, but like people that interacted with these individuals knew them to be like wonderful people and cared about them and fought for them. Like that banker that bailed out Lucy, or the husband that followed her to prison and stayed with her for 10 years through that. The comrades that fought for Cashier to have proper honors in death and to be buried under the proper name. Like there were people who knew these individuals and knew that they were people and knew that they deserved to be respected. And honestly, I think that goes to show the power of meeting people and engaging with people and building relationships with people, because it humanizes you to them. And then you're a human, you're a person. These people lived in a time where this was unacceptable or illegal to live this way. And the people that knew them personally, they didn't fight against them, they fought for them. So I just think that's really powerful. And also it's a more positive note rather than what we just talked about before this. So yeah, that was my hope, to kind of make this a little bit more digestible and a little bit more of an enjoyable video. I do want to say, if you're enjoying the video, make sure to hit the like button. Please hit the like button, especially because I've had to record this video twice and I do feel like the second take is going better, but also just please like the video. That would help me out a lot. Leave a comment down below. Let me know which story spoke to you the most. You know, we can talk about the Medicaid stuff if you want as well, if you have anything to add to that conversation. But I'm really curious how you feel about these historical figures, or maybe a historical figure that you really like and you want to share their story. That would be incredible. So yeah, comment section, that really helps me, helps boost the video and the algorithm, all that wonderful stuff. And the subscribe button, if I didn't say that already, I don't know if I did or not, but please subscribe to the channel. I am trying to go full time here on YouTube. I want to grow. I want to do the thing. I want to be here. I want to make more videos. I want to make better videos. And you can do that by liking, commenting, subscribing. Also, you can support me on Patreon, which we will talk about. But first, I would like to mention that I have a Discord. And if you go to the description of the video, I have a link tree. Like scroll down a little bit. There's a link tree. You click that, it pops open, and in there you will see my Patreon, but you will also see my Discord. We have recently crossed the 1,300 member mark. That is incredible. I love to see that. The community is constantly growing, and we're in there, and we are trying to build a supportive community. If you don't have a lot of people to talk to, if you're looking for people to meet in your area, and you're not sure what to do or where to go, my Discord is a wonderful place. There are constantly people in there realizing that they live like 20 minutes from each other, and they're able to like meet up. The Discord has been a wonderful place for people to share resources, share cute pictures of their pets, you know, get support, all that wonderful stuff. And so if you're looking for something like that, please join the Discord. We would love to see you there. Okay, but I mentioned the Patreon, and I gotta say, I love people who are supporting me on Patreon. You are making this possible. The ad revenue is very variable here on YouTube. I will say that. Like, I am not making a consistent amount of money from ad revenue at all. So like the Patreon's like support is like where I am able to actually build up on my channel. So like if you're supporting me on Patreon, you're doing the hard work. Like you are putting in the real work and the support, and you're doing it. And it's really, really amazing. I appreciate that so very much. You're going to see names popping up on the screen right here. You're going to see them popping up. And these are people who are helping support the channel. So thank you so very much. And I would also like to say that I want to do a shout out, like I do at the end of all my videos, to my super supporters, which are my top tier Patreon supporters. So we have Andrea Yuhara, Yucatan, Kira, Sophie's Dead Name Walking, Ultraviolet Voodoo. I think I said Voodoo previously, but that's Badu. Chastity, Kate, Alfred Lafreniere, Fiona Dobson, Cal Fiore, Jasmine Wilson, Maddie, Trisha Pizifrad, Katie Bug, Sarah J. Buck, Nikki Notzel, Sarah, and Sam Howard. Thank you. You guys are incredible. Could not be doing this without you. Genuinely, like, your support is making the difference. And everyone who supports me on Patreon, thank you. Like, bottom of my heart. I really mean that. And yeah, so I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to do the videos and I'm trying to do the thing. And I apologize for having to miss every now and then, miss a week or miss a stream here and there. I'm really trying my best. It's just life is extremely busy for me right now. And I'm just really struggling. I'm kind of in this weird spot with YouTube where like I am bringing in a little bit of money, which like with the Patreon, it's how I'm able to underpay an editor to help me out. And she's incredible. She does like great work and I'm super thankful because it saves me a ton of time that I don't even have to spend right now. But, you know, it's just like I'm in a weird spot where like I'm not really making enough money to like do this as a job. And so I'm having to still use my free time to make these videos. And I'm also at a point where people look forward to my content and, you know, like have sort of like an expectation of my channel that I have to meet. So it's a very stressful time as a YouTuber. Like I'm at this really weird point where I want to just do the thing and do the work and get paid for it and make this like my job, but I'm not quite there yet. So I would love any support that you could provide, whether that's Patreon or just, you know, engaging with my content or sharing it with friends or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much what I got for you today. I hope to see you around in a future stream or video. But until then, I do just have one thing that you know I'm gonna do. I mean, maybe you don't know, but if you know, you know, and you will soon know, which is that I'm going to ask you to drink some water.